What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Let's dive right into our first news. Michael Chandler broke down exactly why his potential fight against Conor at the White House is an absolute must-win for him, both personally and professionally. Chandler believes the UFC might even create a special belt specifically for this historic White House card. Speaking to MMAfighting.com, he explained that if this matchup becomes official, it won't be enough to simply defeat Conor. He said he would need to go out there, dot every I, cross every T, and not just beat Conor, but dominate him in every phase of the fight. Chandler talked about systematically and surgically breaking Conor down so he could stand on the White House lawn, draped in the stars and stripes, with his hand raised in victory. Chandler revealed that he has already visualized this moment repeatedly ever since the announcement was made about the fight taking place at the White House. For him, the symbolism is huge. It's America's 250th birthday, and he sees himself as the guy who would carry the red, white, and blue to the octagon in what would likely be the main event of the night. He admitted that a moment like that comes with extra pressure and extra layers of responsibility, but he embraces it fully. Chandler said he loves the country, loves the people of the country, and loves everything about being an American. In his view, the United States is the greatest country ever assembled, even though it has its flaws, blemishes, and painful moments, especially with everything that has happened recently. He believes the White House event would serve as a beautiful celebration of what America stands for and who Americans are. For Chandler, being the man to represent the nation on such a historic occasion would be an incredible honor. He said that nothing feels impossible anymore. Just 6 months ago, the idea of holding a UFC fight at the White House sounded completely unrealistic, but now it is set and moving forward, proving that anything can be put on the table. Chandler even imagined Donald Trump walking into the octagon and raising his arm after securing a win for America on its birthday. He said that would be an unforgettable moment, even without a belt on the line. Still, he floated the idea of the UFC creating a White House championship belt, something special for such a monumental event that fighters could display on their shelves or in their offices. Whether that happens or not, Chandler said the chance to fight in front of the president again and to compete on the White House grounds would be a dream come true and one of the greatest moments of his career. And before we continue, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to support the channel. Moving on to another news, Ilia shared a heartfelt message on X, confirming that he will be stepping away from competition for a period of time due to ongoing personal matters. For months, rumors had been circulating that Ilia and his wife were going through a divorce. And now, with his public statement, fans finally received some clarity. Ilia explained that he will not be fighting in the first quarter of next year, saying he is going through a difficult moment in his personal life and wants to focus fully on his children, as well as resolve the situation as soon as possible. He emphasized that he does not want to hold up the division and trusts the UFC to make the necessary matchups while he steps away to handle what truly matters. Once his situation is resolved, he said he will notify the UFC and begin planning his return to the octagon. After Ilia's post, Max Holloway, who has first-hand experience navigating complicated family issues, responded with empathy and support. Max endured a long and exhausting 5-year custody battle involving his son, Rush, and he knows exactly how heavy that burden can feel when combined with the pressures of being a professional fighter. In his message, Max wrote, "Sorry to hear, champ. If it's what I'm hearing it is, I know the struggle firsthand trying to fight while protecting your kids. Hope all goes well." His response was sincere, respectful, and clearly came from a place of understanding. Ilia replied with gratitude, saying, "Thanks for the support, brother. All the best for you and your family." The exchange between the two fighters showcased the human side of the sport, reminding fans that behind every highlight reel, every ranking, and every high-stakes matchup stands a real person dealing with real challenges. Even in a tough and competitive environment like the UFC, moments like these highlight the mutual respect shared between athletes who understand each other's battles inside and outside the cage. Both fighters demonstrated humility, compassion, and professionalism, offering a rare moment of unity in a sport fueled by rivalries and intensity. Moving on to another news, Kron Gracie opened up about the UFC's decision not to re-sign him after his loss to Bryce Mitchell, a fight that drew a massive amount of criticism from fans and analysts. Kron's performance became one of the most discussed topics of the night, mainly because of how limited his offense was. He landed only 6 significant strikes, had 0 successful takedowns, and recorded just 2 seconds of control time before eventually getting knocked out. Fans were shocked, and the backlash was immediate. Kron himself admitted that from now on, he is done pulling guard, which had long been a core part of his grappling-heavy style. In an interview with MMAfighting.com, Kron explained that he believed he would get another fight in the UFC, especially considering the level of competition he faced. He said that at the time, he was fighting a top 15 opponent, and generally, when someone competes against high-ranked fighters, win or lose, they usually expect to remain in the promotion. He emphasized that if you're taking on a top guy, the results shouldn't immediately push you out of the picture. However, he acknowledges that the way he fought, and specifically the way he kept pulling guard, played a major role in how everything unfolded. Kron explained that many fans were disappointed, and he lost a lot of stock in the process. From both a fan perspective and a business perspective, he understands why the UFC made the decision they did. The UFC is a business, and he accepts that when a fighter loses the support of fans, the company might feel it makes sense to step back and say, go get your fans back, go get some wins, and then we'll see what happens. Kron said he doesn't hold anything against the UFC because at the end of the day, business decisions drive the sport just as much as performances do. He went on to explain that if pulling guard is going to affect his ability to continue fighting or affect his ability to make money, then he is simply not going to do it anymore. He said he has already made the decision that he is done pulling guard. Kron acknowledged that he has historically done well from that position, and it was always something he kept in his back pocket as a reliable option. But now he feels that not only for himself, but for his future in the sport, he needs to make a bigger effort to get on top, be effective in multiple positions, and adjust his mindset. He admitted that he didn't previously think that way because of how much success he had enjoyed from the bottom. But now, things have to change if he wants to rebuild and move forward. Moving on to another news, George St. Pierre shared his thoughts on a potential showdown between Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall, and he appears to be slightly leaning toward Jones if the two ever meet inside the octagon. GSP admitted it is a very difficult fight to call for a number of reasons. When it comes to accomplishments, he said there is simply no comparison. Jon Jones has achieved more than anyone in the sport, and in his eyes, Jones remains the best in terms of overall legacy and resume. However, GSP also made it clear that if you're talking strictly about who might be the better fighter today, the conversation becomes much more interesting. Tom Aspinall is younger, faster, and had tremendous momentum behind him. Even though that momentum took a hit due to the recent eye gouge incident, GSP pointed out that until that moment, the fight was extremely close. Both fighters were coming forward, trading shots, and delivering a thrilling matchup that fans were loving. Because of how competitive and entertaining it was, GSP believes the UFC will almost certainly book a rematch, and he thinks the outcome will tell everyone a lot about where both men currently stand. Still, when shifting the conversation back to a potential Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall fight, GSP admitted he simply does not know what would happen. He said Jon Jones is an anomaly, a fighter who defies typical logic and expectations. Even though on paper you might argue that Jones is older, no longer in his prime, and potentially facing a younger, more explosive opponent, GSP stressed that you just cannot bet against Jon Jones. He said that despite any perceived disadvantages, Jones always finds a way to rise to the moment because at the end of the day, he is still Jon Jones, and that alone makes him nearly impossible to count out. Moving on to another news. Alex Pereira delivered another brutal reminder of why his left hand is one of the most feared weapons in the sport. During a sparring session earlier today, Alex unleashed his signature left hand and knocked out his partner clean, leaving everyone in the gym stunned. You can hear someone in the background saying, "Look, soon the right hand goes," as Alex sets up the shot with calm precision. A moment later, he fires again, showcasing that terrifying power he's become known for. When the knockout lands, there's a mix of shock and disbelief. But honestly, nobody should be surprised at this point. Alex has been doing this his entire career. From the left hook that ended championship fights to the shots that drop opponents in training, it's the same story every time. One person watching summed it up perfectly. Oh Lord, why are y'all surprised? Moving on to another news. It looks like the UFC may have accidentally leaked some massive fight news earlier today. The official UFC Brazil page posted an announcement on X that Max Holloway would be facing Charles Oliveira for the BMF title at UFC 324 in January. The post was live only for a brief moment before it was deleted, but not before fans grabbed screenshots and sent the MMA world into a frenzy. This potential matchup instantly became one of the most talked about topics of the day. For those who remember, Max and Charles already shared the octagon back in 2015. Max won that fight via first-round TKO, a result that still sparks debate. After the bout, Charles claimed he suffered an injury during the fight, which he believes changed the outcome. Max responded at the time by saying that nothing was ever officially confirmed and that the injury explanation never fully added up. Since then, both fighters have grown tremendously, carving out completely different chapters in their careers. Max has repeatedly said that he and Charles have unfinished business. He talked about the history between them, how the narrative has always included Charles pointing to some sort of injury, and how a rematch would finally settle everything once and for all. Max even said, "I guess we get to figure it out now," referring to the long-standing questions surrounding their first meeting. With the leaked post hinting at a BMF title fight, the stakes appear to be even higher. Even though the UFC pulled the announcement down almost instantly, the buzz hasn't slowed. Fans are already discussing the matchup, wondering how a rematch would play out nearly a decade later. Max is coming off some of the strongest performances of his career, while Charles remains one of the most dangerous finishers in the lightweight division. Both have evolved, and both bring completely different weapons to the cage this time around. If the UFC truly has this fight lined up for January, it would be one of the biggest rematches in recent memory. Whether the leak was intentional or a genuine mistake, one thing is clear: the hype has already started, and fans are ready to see Max and Charles finally settle their history. Moving on to another news, Khamzat has officially responded to Nassourdine imavov after Imavov called him out on X. Imavov shared that he recently had a positive conversation with the UFC, making it very clear what he wants next. He said he told the promotion that he's only interested in a title shot. If waiting is required, then he's willing to wait. No distractions, no detours, just full focus. According to him, great things demand preparation, and he intends to be fully ready when the opportunity arrives. Imavov went on to add that he isn't someone who likes waiting around, but this time, patience is necessary. He said this moment calls for discipline and commitment, and he's prepared to handle both. Shortly after, Khamzat jumped in with his own message. Keeping it short and sharp, he replied, "See you after Ramadan. You have time to work on your wrestling." The exchange immediately grabbed attention, as fans have been eager to see Khamzat return and curious about who would stand across from him next. With both fighters showing interest and the timeline seemingly lining up, this potential matchup suddenly looks more real than ever.